Welcome back to the MOOC on the Nexus and Sustainability. This class is dedicated to illustrating basic concept of metabolic analysis. In particular, the distinction between fan and flow elements, and that it is an important distinction when we want to analyze how a social ecological system works. And this distinction has been proposed by Georgescu and it is an important distinction because in conventional economic approach they are using only a differentiation between two elements, flow and stocks, whereas Georgescu proposed to have three categories of accounting: fund elements, flow element, and stock element. And this is extremely important because it makes possible to make a distinction between what is renewable and what is not renewable. A renewable is a fund flow, is a flow coming from a fund, and whereas a non-renewable is a flow coming from a stock. So we will go through some example to illustrate what this distinction means and why it is important to make it. So a fund is something that remains the same over the duration of the analysis. So you start in January 2017, you end in January 2018, and the number of people, the number of cars, the technology remain the same. So the fund of the system remain the same. The flows are things that are consumed or produced. It could be the energy consumed, the number of the kilos of zucchini produced, or the amount of refrigerator that have been thrown away. So they are either appearing or disappearing during the duration of the analysis. Stocks is a quantity of flows that is concentrated, that is even reduced. If I start with a mine full of gold and I take out the gold, then the stocks of gold goes down, or increase. If I start throwing garbage into a dumping site, then the stock of garbage is increasing. So the stocks are not sustainable, but they may be useful because using stock as buffer, you can supply to the fact that at times the flow that you need is not exactly consistent or compatible with the fund that you get. Okay, just to give you an example, a fund flow would be milk coming out from a cow. So I can get out the milk over and over if the cows is living in a community of other cows and can be reproduced. It is very nice because it is renewable, but has some complication. The flow of hours, milk per hour is limited, or per day. You can have like 14 liter, 20 liter, 30 liter, depends on the cow, but is given. Then if I want to adjust the supply, let's imagine I have twice as much milk, I have to change my fund element, increase the number of cows that I am using for generating milk. And also there is an additional problem with fund flow, is that you have to take care of the fund, in the sense you have to take care of the cow, to reproduce the cow, and then if the cow is sick, call a veterinary, give food to the cow. So a fund give you a flow forever, is renewable, but it requires a cost of maintenance and reproduction. What happens if we go for a stock flow? A stock flow would be, as an example, let's imagine we found in a cellar a few barrels of beer, and this is not renewable supply of beer, but has a lot of advantage. As long as the beer lasts, I can consume as much as I want. I can drink one bottle, 2 bottles, 10 bottles. If I give a party, I throw a party, I can have 100 people and still open more barrels of beer. I can adjust the supply. This is the point. And also, I don't have any cost of the supply because I found the beer in the cellar. Of course, different will be the situation in which I'm making beer. If I'm producing beer, it's no longer a fund flow. It's no longer a stock flow. It would be a fund flow. But then I would have to pay and reproduce all the production factor required to make beer. Another important difference here is that to be considered is that there is a strict relation between fun and flow in a metabolic analysis. To understand this difference, we can compare the type of information that you get from a metabolic analysis of material energy flows and a material energy flow accounting. If we get a metabolic element, this is a cat eating food, you have the fun element, which is the cat, and the flow element, which is the food. Then we can define, given a fund, that is an active cat, 1 year old, weighing 5.5 kilos, then what are the type of flow that is needed? So I can define both in quantity and in quality the type of content that is required to keep alive the fund. So a metabolic analysis makes possible to define what matter and energy is. Completely different is if I do a material energy flow accounting of what that is not defining the relation fund flow. I could have that, in this case, I have a faucet with liquid going through, but you could have different type of faucet, you could have different type of liquid. When you come to the definition of what is the energy and what is the quality and quantity of the energy, you can get whatever. You could have energy included as kinetic energy or the energy content of the flow. In this case, if it is gasoline, it would be 42 megajoule per kilo. You don't know the mass because you don't know what type of flow is in it. So this just making an accounting of material energy flow has nothing to do with metabolism. Metabolism is when the identity of the fund element is linked to the identity of the flow and define its characteristics. For example, a horse is eating hay, whereas a car is eating gasoline. So there is no energy in general. We'll see later on many examples of this. We cannot use energy in general terms. You have energy carriers, they are linked to a specific end use. In this case, the end use of the horse is digesting here, and the end use of the car is operating an engine. And then the energy carrier is either gas or hay. This is something that can only be specified within a definition of a metabolic relation. Okay. Also, another important point of the metabolic analysis is that what is a fund, what is a flow, depend on the scale of the analysis. If I am analyzing an agricultural farm, a farm on 1 year basis, of course the tractor will be a fund because it remains the same, and the energy of the tractor will be the flow element. But let's imagine I'm studying the industrialization of the structural change in the economy of a country over a much larger time scale. I will have that the tractors may be the flow of technology going from the industry to the agricultural sector, and a factory would be the fund producing tractors. It is important to be aware of this fact because scale, I will see later on, is of an enormous importance for defining what you are measuring and how. To summarize, a metabolic analysis has to be based on the distinction between funds and flows, and also that the definition of fund and flows is not once and for all, is a definition that depends on the scale at which you are defining your analysis. A last consideration to make is that there are pros and cons in exploiting fund and flow resources. If I am telling you that there are millions of euros in sofas in the city, and then basically you can have 2 euros of loose change in each home sofa, then one source of money could be a permit to gather coins from 500,000 sofas per year. This would be a renewable flow of money because every 2 years these millions is regenerated. On the other hand, I can give you $1 million in a suitcase. This will not renewable flow of money, but it even though it will end when the suitcase is empty, it would be a much better deal than collecting money in the sofa. So the metabolic analysis imply another important point, that we cannot talk of flows in general, energy, money, or whatever, if you are not first assessing the importance of the speed of the flow and the characteristic of the fund, what the fund requires to be reproduced. Because probably if you are doing the collecting of coins in sofas, you will spend more in a day of collection than when you get back. So the level of dissipation of you as a fund will not make this type of money supply as a viable supply. So concluding this, what is the big lesson that we can learn from Georgescu region? That you cannot understand anything if you make a distinction between fund flows and stocks. It is not true that there are simply things they are disappearing, appearing, and they are there. There are relations between fund and flows. They are very easy to define and to characterize, and the existence of stocks is very nice, give us the possibility of escaping biophysical constraints, but it's a temporary one. And then the second big lesson is that the economy is not about producing goods and services, but it's about reproducing fun. We are not producing things to sell, but we are reproducing jobs, we are reproducing happy people, we are reproducing community. The flows have a meaning only if they are used to reproduce meaning. And this is the light of the metabolic analysis.